Well, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to say good afternoon and welcome. Welcome to a fresh, brand new edition of the program ASHFORD GARLEY Live on Bridge Radio Africa. Today is Sunday, July the 7th, 2024. And as always, Father God, want to give you praise. Want to magnify your name. Blessed be your holy name forever. Lord Jesus, you have given us another chance at life. And with that, we just want to say we're grateful to you. In the name of Jesus, we've given thanks. By way of introduction, some heard the name, some heard people talk about him. You've gotten the opportunity to match the name, face, and voice. Some call him the mastermind, the medicine of the microphone, the golden voice of radio, Africa's media doobie-doo extraordinaire. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than the lion. Basi Yomplu, c'est qu'on voulait appeler. Oui, diakuya egwe play. Groba, quick on your secret. Mesdames et messieurs, je vous dis bon après-midi, bienvenue. Nous sommes tous sud-africains de motivation. Merci pour votre contribution et merci pour votre invitation. Abaria Godamane, Amani Akoja, Jumbo, ASHFORD the Giant, and now you know me, GARLEY. Welcome to the show. And by the way, folks, we have an exclusive this afternoon, 101, with Dr. John T. Wulu. Dr. Wulu is a candidate for the presidency at the University of Liberia. He's a high-profile gentleman, or son of Liberia, and he's going to be telling us very shortly what are some of the plans that he has in store for the university. In the meantime, grab something to drink, get the popcorn rolling, and when we reappear, you will be interacting with Dr. Wulu. Stay tuned. And by the way, we are live on Punch Radio Liberia. My producer in the background is Soko Conan. My brothers and sisters in Monrovia, Liberia, it's been a minute, but I'm back in your living room. I'm back in your vehicles. I'm back at the garages. I'm back on the beaches. Cinco, Pinsville, Concotown, Gardnersville, Capital Bypass. You name it. We are live this afternoon. And I want to say a big thanks to my sister, Yumutro Krinka. She just returned from Ghana following her wedding. And she, as a matter of fact, she brought me this shirt, and I'm rocking it for her this afternoon. Sis Yumutro Doris, thanks for the gift. I appreciate it. May God continue to bless you. Okay, at this time, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to introduce to you our special guest, Dr. John T. Wulu. Dr. Wulu, good afternoon. Welcome to the show.
Good afternoon. ASHFORD the Giant, Mr. GARLEY.
Yes, sir.
Good afternoon. It's great to be on your show
this
afternoon in the United States. And I know people at home, it's nighttime there. The Lord is near to all who call on him, to all who call on him in truth. And that's from the book of Psalms 145:18. I'm very delighted to be on your show this afternoon and looking forward to talking with you. I know we had a prelude last few days ago.
Right.
And again, thank you so much for inviting me to speak to your audience on Bridge Radio Africa and Punch Radio with others who are out there in Liberia. So I'm delighted to be on and to share with you my intent to seek the presidency of the University of Liberia. So thank you.
By the way, you look sharp this afternoon, Doc.
I have to respect the audience. I know that you have a diverse group of folks, and I wanted to be as decent as possible in presenting myself. So thank you.
Okay. Now, first off, I want to say a big thank you to you for honoring our invitation and coming in to let the Liberian people know what do you intend to do in changing the landscape as it relates to education in our country, which is uh, overdue, and we welcome the idea. First of all, I want to uh, ask you, are there specific benchmarks the public should be anticipating in terms of you intending to go to the university?
Well, definitely, I'd like to respond to your question, but I need to also tell you a few things relating to how I got here. And it's important to know that I stand on giants' shoulders, on the shoulders of many giants. I was one of those fortunate few that left Liberia over 40 years ago to study abroad, study in the United States of America. And folks that really supported me through it all were the president of the University of Liberia at the time, Dr. Mary Antoinette Brown Sherman, and Dr. Theodore Ward Jackson. Those were two major individuals.
So right now we are moving to your ASHFORD Valley as to bring you the ASHFORD Valley live show. Still tuned. Don't go away. This is Sponge 106.7 FM. We were broadcasting from as we join the team.
Thank you. Go ahead, Doc.
Well, just in terms of continuing what I was saying is that I stand on the shoulders of giants who came before me. And I mentioned the names of two major individuals in my life that helped me to get to the United States of America to study with the intent to continue to assist and provide help to Liberia. And one of those individuals was Dr. Mary Antoinette Brown Sherman, who was president of the University of Liberia at the time, and Dr. Theodore Ward Jackson, who was the dean of the William V.S. Tutman's Teachers College when I was in Liberia. So I give thanks to those and others who I may not have the time to name on your show at this time, but I've been very fortunate to have gotten to the United States and study mathematics, statistics, business administration, and other things. Now, in terms of your questions of benchmark, there are several benchmarks that we'll be looking at moving forward. There may be milestones, but our hope is to really turn some of the challenges that Liberia is facing through the University of Liberia into opportunities. So I will be discussing some of those with you. I may not have the full time to share all of my ideas. I've been able to share some of my talking points or perspectives with the search committee through email, through a point of contact. So with that, I'll turn it back to you as to being a little more specific about what would you like for me to respond to on your network.
Thank you. Well, folks, if you're just joining us, this is ASHFORD Live on British Radio Africa. We're in collaboration this afternoon with Punch FM 106 in Liberia, and we have with us this afternoon Dr. John Wulu, a son of Liberia, Homeland Security professional, and a professor at the University of Maryland. Well, Dr. Wulu, please help us understand what you know to be the existential problems facing the university in the order of priority. How do you intend to fix it?
Well, that's a very good question, Mr. GARLEY. The thing is that we have a variety of problems that we have to deal with. It may happen that we may not be able to chronologically place these problems into perspective at the moment, but we will share some thoughts and be able to share with your audience some solutions that we will bring to bear when we take on the helm at the University of Liberia. The first thing is that it's important that folks get to know a little bit about my background, and then I will revert to the question you raised about problems and listing priority in priority order my intent as I vie for the position of the president of the University of Liberia. But I should also prefix this, that it is not a political position in some ways, but as you know, in Liberia, things are usually politicized in some ways. But again, I'm not running for a position, an elected position. This is not an elected position in any ways. This is a position that comes through, say, a search committee appointed by, say, the Board of Trustees of the University of Liberia, and in conjunction with the government of Liberia in some connection. So with regards to my background in itself, I graduated from the University of Liberia with a Bachelor's of Science degree in mathematics and secondary education back in 1981. And then went on to the University, Western Michigan University, to study for my master's degree in mathematics.
Did you just leave for the States? What did you do then when you first graduated from the university?
That's a good question. Very good. I took on a full-time position as a math instructor, math and physics instructor, with Merva College and Industrial Training High School, simply Merva College and Industrial Training School in Liberia. And also at the University of Liberia, I was recruited immediately upon my graduation by the University of Liberia to teach mathematics. And basically, I was teaching second year mathematics when I graduated back in 1981, 82. So I taught at the university for about 2 years. Within that span of time, I was granted a scholarship by the University of Liberia to study mathematics, to come and create an image in which you will have Liberians with graduate degrees teaching at the University of Liberia. So then I landed at Western Michigan University in 1983. And within a year and a half, I completed my master's degree in mathematics at Western Michigan University. And upon graduation, I had very much great interest in returning to Liberia to become a professor at the University of Liberia, but there was a breakdown in communication. I simply didn't have that privilege of connecting much more with the university authorities then. In 1985, so much was going on in Liberia. There was a little bit of engagement, outreach with some of us who were abroad. So with that, I had an opportunity of getting assistantship, graduate assistantship with Michigan State University, that recruited me. It said, you have a master's degree in mathematics. We need you here. If you'd like to continue and do a PhD in mathematics, we'd like to have you. And the rest is history. And I went on and went to Michigan State University, took on the graduate assistantship, and was teaching at Michigan State as of 1985. So there have been a lot of other things that have happened in my life moving forward. I connected with family members and continued to work in Michigan, and had my wife while I was in school at the Michigan State, married and began to have kids. I'm one of those fortunate few that had four children, 3 boys and 1 girl. And while at Michigan State, I decided, well, to do another degree quickly, and that was in statistics. Get another master's degree in statistics, so I graduated with that, and went on to work for Michigan State Department as a senior statistician. So I've been through a lot of different circles. Besides teaching, also been involved in other professions, industrial work, working with the Department of Health and Human Services, actually the Department of Public Health, Community Health Service in Michigan, and also teaching. So I've been very preoccupied with many different positions while in Michigan, teaching and also working with the Department of Health in Michigan, public health. But opportunity came knocking, and I went on to complete the PhD degree as well at the University of Alabama in Birmingham in statistics. And then later earned a master's of business administration degree, an MBA degree. So I've been several master's degree and a PhD while continuing to work in different places within the United States. When I look back, it's been over 40 years, and also have connection with my family in Liberia. I was one of those that was able to get the majority of my family members to the United States to study and work and become fruitful citizens in the United States. And my effort had been seen in Liberia as well, trying to keep my parents' legacy going, and that's with the schools. The John and Minnie Wulu school system is one of those that I've always had interest in moving forward with, because it was very helpful in my beginning as well. That school was set up because of my parents wanting to keep the communities alive when it comes to education. My parents will always say that education is a treasure. Keep it up. Never let yourself down. Always advance yourself to the highest level possible when it comes to education. So with that, one of the things with regards to perspectives that I have on addressing issues in Liberia is making sure that our folks receive quality education. And I'm with the government in terms of understanding some of the challenges being faced there, knowing that the University of Liberia is a public institution of higher learning. There's going to be a lot of activities that the university will be counted on to get involved with to help Liberia move forward. So I don't take my decision of throwing my hat in the ring of becoming the president of the University of Liberia lightly. I want to do it from the bottom of my heart.
And folks, if you're just joining us, this is ASHFORD GARLEY Live on British Radio Africa. We're also in collabo this afternoon with Punch Radio Liberia 106 FM. And we have with us tonight Dr. John T. Wulu. He's a professor here in the United States of America and a home security professional at the federal government here in the United States of America. Well, Dr. Wulu, your credential, that is 106.7. Your credential is academically rich, but tell us about specific work experience that qualifies you for the presidency of the University of Liberia. I'm asking because you have never been a president of a university.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's a very good question, Mr. Garley. And again, the same is true that You may not have to have all of the credentials, all of the qualifications to excel in a given profession. Once you have a passion for something, at the leadership level, you can excel when you have passion. I'm currently, and I don't speak for the government of the United States of America, I currently serve as a senior management and program analyst within the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. The policy, strategy, policy, and plans office, which is also overseeing the Office of Homeland Security Statistics as we speak. I've served as chief statistician of a branch within another component of the Department of Homeland Security, which is the ICE, Immigration and Custom Enforcement Group. I serve as the chief statistician for what we call the ICE Health Service Corps. And I was recognized for establishing an office at the Immigration Health Service Corps. I would call the acronym IHSC. That the data analytics office has been an important office because I oversaw that office. That is, I had oversight of the office in terms of leading and establishing it. And that office today is in good running condition within the United States Department of Homeland Security, the data analytics office. I move on up to the headquarters. So I'm at the headquarters of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security at the moment. It's where I work currently as a full-time employee. And have excelled in every position that I've held. But prior to coming to the Department of Homeland Security, I was fortunate to have been given a position at the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services. That was over 20 years ago, in 2000, where I served as a senior mathematical statistician and head of research and evaluation within the data office of the Bureau of Health Care, Bureau of Primary Health Care, I would say. So I had a stint of about 7 years with the Department of Health and Human Services before my entire division was taken or absorbed into the Department of Homeland Security. So it was not by desire to get into the Department of Homeland Security, but because my office at the time that I was a part of at the Department of Health and Human Services, that office was reallocated, you would say, or realigned with the Department of Homeland Security, ICE. And I got there and served as chief statistician and continued through. But also I am an adjunct professor of mathematics, statistics, and epidemiology at the University of Maryland Global Campus, and also the University, Coppin State University in the United States, in Maryland as well. So wanted to point those things out because it's important that folks know your background. If you're seeking a position, is that with the qualifications you have is going to be a driver in getting you to succeed in what you want to do moving forward. So with that, I want to mention to you that my effort will be mainly sharing with folks a path that I have to look at as I sustain the growth, professional growth and transformation of the university. University would benefit from my thoughts in terms of my vision statement in itself, I envision that the university would be a world-class higher institution of learning, comparable to top universities around the world. And once more, the pride and lux in tennis of the African continent. As you look at what you call the logo of the University of Liberia, you will see Lux. There's a reason why that is within the logos and is in the logo of the University of Liberia. And making that university to be a star and second to none university, even starting within Liberia and also within West Africa, given the history of the university in itself. So there's a lot more that I could point out in terms of some of the points that I have in mind that will make up a plan that's in connection, I would say, with what the leadership in Liberia is working on as well.
And speaking of the points that you have in mind, how can the university raise outside funding to modernize its teaching and educational standards, given the fact that every politician comes to over the crowd, there's no money in the country? How do you expect to do that?
Well, it is another great point, and that makes up one of the points that I have in my proposed plan to the search committee. One of the things that I would struggle and fight hard to obtain and reach a success level with is fostering partnerships with a network of potential donors, high quality institutions all over the world, colleagues and friends abroad, or even within Africa, Liberia, you would say, colleagues and friends, to sort of design a robust support that will help revamp and strengthen the university, undergraduate colleges, the graduate schools, and other programs at the University of Liberia. So I have a strong desire to connect with others out there, that I will not be sitting on my hands waiting for support. It's great to always extend yourself, reach out, engage with resources in my network that will be able to supply the needs going forward. Noticing also that the university in itself is a public university. It's a university where we do not, from what I gather, since 2018 at the University of Liberia, students have not been paying tuition, that it is tuition free. So there has to be plans put in place to be able to keep resources, financial resources that will help the university move forward.
Okay, folks, if you just joining us, again, this is ASHFORD Live on British Radio Africa. We are live from Brooklyn Park, Minnesota. We're also live on Punch Radio 1067 in Monrovia, Liberia. I want to say a big thanks to our special producer back there in studio, Mr. Soko Konen, for taking up time of his business schedule just to form part of the show this afternoon. Well, Dr. Wulu, you got your first degree from the University of Liberia back in the 80s. How would you characterize student politics at a university? Do you think it is productive or taking up too much learning time?
Again, that's another excellent question. You have to see yourself as an ally, a friend of the students. And when I was in school in the 70s and the early 80s at the University of Liberia, we also had politics, students involved in politics in Liberia. And basically, Liberia being one of those countries that allow freedom of speech. And we encourage that because it's part of the learning process as well. Don't envy the students that are progressive when it comes to expressing their views. There may be a reason. Listen carefully to what the students are saying as an administrator or as a leader. Listen very carefully. They may have a good point. Share with them discussion, engage them into sharing more so that you understand their perspective on things and perceptions in itself. So when I was at the University of Liberia, I noticed also we had student organizations at the time. And I believe that I don't really say this all the time, but I was a member of the Student Unification Party at the time, and also served as vice president of the student government within the Teachers College at the time. So I was active in itself, working with other colleagues, students like myself, and professors who were very encouraging in terms of making sure that the needs of our students are heard. So one of the things that I am hoping that will allow me an opportunity to do when I get to the university as president of the university, will conduct a kind of situational assessment of the university, understanding really doing needs assessments, very important, infrastructure inventories on all campuses, given that the University of Liberia has maybe 4 campuses right now, and the main campus is the Capitol Hill campus. Also, Fender is also a competitive one. You know, engage and understand what are those needs. First, conduct some infrastructure inventories at the different universities, different campuses, I would say, will be very important. There are things that you will find out that have been creating a divergent point with the students, that the students may not understand, that you will find out through those assessments.
Well, Dr. Blue, you are a very high-profile professional. With several decades here in the United States of America. I'm pretty sure when you work, you expect to get paid. Liberia is struggling in terms of education. When you get the position as the president of the University of Liberia, what if the university can't afford to pay you? How do you get paid?
And that's a very good point again, because we noticed that all around with even issues of having faculty member who are well qualified, the kind of very minimal salary that they live on, the wage that they live on, sometimes is very concerning. How actful or how very, strong they are in managing some, pestilence, you would say, small amount of money to stretch it through a month. And sometimes they don't even get paid on time. So one of those things will require good governance and connections and relationships with others outside of the university and even outside of Liberia to bring in the kind of resources needed, financial support that will help strengthen the university in so many ways, so that teachers or employees of the university will get paid on time and will be able to settle the salary arrears as a motivation or an impetus for staff going forward. Because if you don't settle that, you will be kind of creating a lot of dust that will not really allow you to see what's going on. You'll be clouded with issues of disgruntlement, issues of dissatisfaction, and people will not be performing as well because money is not available to help them to sustain their own families. So one of the things that I would be very mindful of will require good governance and association engaging others to really have a deep dive, a very deep dive into the problems that the University of Liberia has been facing over several years. And considering that Liberia is a post-war country, things just don't happen overnight. But as you have great planning to move forward, I think when you have great planning, you have better outcomes going forward. And my hope is that I will try to keep very good rapport with others outside of the university or within the government, within different companies, private sectors, industries in Liberia and outside of Liberia, to ensure that the University of Liberia is counted in the mix in making sure that we garnered the support needed to move the University of Liberia forward and second to none.
I don't know if the audience got the answer that I was looking for. I understand you intend to restructure the University of Liberia, making it a premier one. The infancy stage in anything is difficult. How do you expect to get paid initially when you get there as president of the university?
Right. And again, a great question. I may not be able to answer all of your questions in detail, given our time constraints. But here's the issue, is that the University of Liberia has a system that is moving forward right now. You cannot get into the academia in itself and start rooting out everything that you see. You got to do some assessment. And this is what I mentioned, that situational assessment will be very important moving forward, to know what past leaders have done that were successful. In terms of pay, I'm not too concerned about how much I would be allowed it as a pay to me running the University of Liberia. I'm not too concerned about that at the moment. But the main thing is making that sacrifice for the University of Liberia, because the University of Liberia got me to where I am today. It's not been for the University of Liberia, I would not have been in the United States of America to acquire so many degrees and be able to have my kids, all of them being graduates and working very hard in different fields, and being proud of my family moving forward. So in terms of having good governance, that's very important, and also assuring that we have financial support from various sources. So there has to be a connection with the word around us. The word around us. Making changes will come, but you have to listen. You have to be on a trajectory that will allow you to listen to those who are on the ground. As I mentioned to you, I've been supportive of my parents' schools in Liberia. That's the John and Minnie Wulu school system. About 3 major schools in that school system that I've been supportive of over the years. So I've been visiting Liberia and been engaging and making sure that things are moving forward with the schools. And the schools have been doing very well. One of them is a high school, the Richie M. Nixon Institute. If you look at the passing rate on the WISE, it used to be WIAC exam when I was in school then. And we used to take exam in the 6th grade. We took exam in the 9th grade. This was national exams, and we took exam in the 12th grade. But now it's WISE. WISE is being given, and the school, the Richie M. Nixon Institute, has performed exceedingly well over the last 2 years, I would say. There was a 100% passing rate at the John and Minnie Wulu School System, Richie M. Nixon Institute in 2021, 2022. And 2022, 2023, we had about a 93% passing rate on the WISE exam. So that's the kind of trajectory we're looking at. If the University of Liberia is going to perform well, we want to have students who are at the top of their game going forward, students who are well prepared. And again, money can make a difference at the University of Liberia. It's important. I will not kind of dodge your questions or run around the bush on your question about pay. Payment's very important to academics. It's very important to our administrators. It's very important to the faculty, and as well as some students who may be able to work in different areas while they're at the university. So yes, there will be opportunities where we will want to make sure that our employees are paid on time and also take care of those salaries for employees that we are in arrear with at the University of Liberia, making sure that that will be a priority, number one.
Again, we want to say a big thanks to all of you for taking off time of the busy schedule just to form part of the show tonight. Want to say a big thanks to Punch Radio 106.7. We're live in Monrovia. Want to say a big thanks for collaborating with British Radio Africa this afternoon, this evening. What, Doc, you talk about student performance. Nowadays, people are staying up to more than a half decade just to obtain the bachelor's degree. How do you intend to address that?
Well, and again, another excellent question. I don't know where you get all these questions, even though I didn't kind of sit with you to talk about questions. This is relatively different in terms of interviewing or talking with me. It's a conversation we're having. I'm not running an election here. It's not an election or campaign that I'm running. It's more of making sure through this conversation that folks get to know me before I hit the ground in Liberia. Right. So there are ways in which we hope to advance the interests of students. The university, when I was there, I think the student population was about a third or maybe a fourth of what it is now when I was there, and back in the late 70s and early 80s. Today, I've been informed that the university is student populations in thousands, well over 10,000, 18,000 or so students. And there may be opportunities of planning that the university be able to recruit more students and educate more students going forward. So in terms of assuring that performance of students is sort of stellar and at an apex for a premier university such as the University of Liberia, is to make sure we have high quality staff, employees, faculty, academics brought into the University of Liberia, and administrators as well. So assuring that is important. And also infrastructure development at the university is important. Where are the students coming from to go to school? Are they on campus or are they at home? Do they have the resources? Do they have the learning materials? All of that will be very important moving forward. What are the learning materials that we avail to the students, given that we tell them that it is tuition free? Are we giving them books? Are we giving them writing materials? All of these things have to be looked at very seriously going forward. I would not assume that I would have answers to all of these questions at the moment, but it's more of sitting with people who have been on the ground and working at the university day in and day out to make sure I understand their perspective on things, to make sure I see through their lenses what they have seen, what might be some of the suggestions they have. And this is why such assessment in the very beginning will be so important going forward. Needs assessment.
Okay, Doc. Thank you. Let us hear from the locals back in Liberia. We have a couple of telephone numbers yet. If you're in Liberia, in Monrovia specifically, and you want to ask Dr. Wulu the question, these are the numbers to call: 0778 665699, 077 08665699 or 0880-561644. 0880-561644. Those are the numbers to call. You can begin calling now. And as we wait for folks to begin calling, that I just have this. You said something about taking the YS exam before entering the university from high school. Now, do you also foresee having students sit and pass the MECA, which is the Medical College Admission Test, before entering the AM or Dr. T School of Medicine?
Well, thank you for, again, another brilliant question about other graduate colleges at the University of Liberia. Those will always be prioritized in my mind if I took on the helm of the University of Liberia. The Eamon Dougherty Medical School have been existing for a very long time. And with regards to students getting into the A.M. Dougherty College, we have to revisit currently what's the procedure for entrance into that. We know that within the United States of America, that students who have made it into medical school have to do very well on the MCAT, what's called the Medical College Aptitude Tests, going forward. Because I remember that clearly, very plainly and squarely, because I'm very fortunate to have had my daughter, who is a surgeon here in Maryland, who is a plastic surgeon in Maryland. She had to go through that over several years ago before being admitted into medical school within the United States. So again, to create a top-rate university that will compete with others elsewhere, our medical students have to be well prepared. And if they're coming on board, a good decision would be evaluate their skills, their knowledge, and make sure that they're up to par in succeeding at the University of Liberia E.M. Dougherty Medical School. So that would be another issue. There are other graduate schools, graduate programs we have at the university. The law school is one of those as well. So again, we look at the standards being set at the Louis Alta Graham's Law School and see what standards we have for admitting students into the law school. Observe also the standards that's set for admitting folks into the A.M. Dougherty College. All of that will be on the table for discussion going forward.
Well, great ideas, and the potential is there. But first thing first, only the president can appoint the UL president. One might say, have you reached out to the president of Liberia? I know you have international contacts and connections. What are your connections in Liberia and contacts?
Well, Mr. Garley, I have so many contacts in Liberia. The thing is that I don't want to see this as a favor in itself given to me. I'm offering myself as a lamb to help Liberia because Liberia has helped me thus far, and especially the University of Liberia. I know that I may have had contact many years ago, I would say, with our current president of the Republic of Liberia, Dr. Boyka, His Excellency Joseph N. Boyka. I've had some contact in the past, but I wish success with his administration, the current administration in Liberia. We cannot just sit down and leave Liberia to fend for itself, especially when we're given opportunities abroad. We have to navigate through all channels to get Liberia to where Liberia belongs. And Liberia is one of those countries that I can't tell you all about the history of Liberia in itself. Liberia have vouched for so many other countries to stand up for their independence in the dark days. Liberia has been existing for a very long time, since 1847. And it's to my knowledge, other than sometimes there's a debate as to whether Liberia or Ethiopia and all of that being high on the list, Liberia is considered, in my book, the oldest African independent country, as far as I'm concerned. And Liberia deserves more than it has been given. The share we all have to share in to help Liberia make Liberia a greater nation than what it is. And so, in helping folks, the connections that I have in Liberia, to your question, those connections will unveil themselves as I move forward. I'm not looking for patriotic, favors with folks who are very high up in the chain, but there's a search committee that's set up, and the search committee will look at those who have submitted application and make decision about recommendations, I suppose. Yeah.
The newest sensation.
Again, thanks. We want to begin taking questions from our callers or those on Facebook as well. Again, the telephone number is 0778-665-699. That's in Liberia. 0880-561644. And on the platform, we have a question from Mr. A.B. Varman. He said, what is your vision for integrating technology into the university curriculum for operations?
And that's a good question in itself, AB. Wonderful questions. The thing about this is understanding that we're going to incentivize raising activities, information about STEM, 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 that is science, technology, engineering, and mathematics, research, a program within the University of Liberia, showing that folks who have interests in science, who have interest in technology, will be engaged into furthering themselves, enhancing their skills moving forward, is my hope. And that's important. There are other opportunities in which I would consider advancing the university forward in terms of assuring that folks have what I believe would be opportunity to embrace cybersecurity, to have secure data or information at the university. So there will be cybersecurity programs, I'm hoping. IT, information technology program, will be encouraged at the university moving forward. So we have competitive strains in terms of academics, academic programs at the university. So with regards to the question on science and technology or technology programs, we're going to advance those going forward, knowing what is really being done now at the university when it comes to educating folks or having folks get a degree in information technology or in engineering, other fields. And what are they doing? Are they moving from theory, say, to practice? Because we want students to be able to practice what they learn in Liberia and be able to support the endeavors in Liberia. Now, keep in mind, do not forget the agenda that we have on the JNB administration. You've heard of the acronym, where we have it's AREST.
Arrest.
Arrest. And basically, this acronym is important. Liberians should embrace that and move forward with that in terms of making sure we get to that level. The A in that sense talk about agriculture. It'll be agriculture, engineering, agriculture activities, making sure that we are food sufficient in Liberia, that the university is contributing to that. There are several other universities in Liberia. Those universities are also competing with Liberia, the University of Liberia. But again, Liberia, the University of Liberia being a public funded university, can do more. Agriculture, roads, when we talk about civil engineering, building roads, who's building the Liberian roads? Don't we think that we should count on some of those at the university to help us from the study, from learning the theory to being able to put it into practice at the university level, and doing it in practice in conjunction with Ministry of Public Works and other ministries? Also, in terms of looking at education, learning, training, we talk about Teacher Training Institute and making sure everything is moving so well. And there will be other issues to talk about with regards to the President Joseph Boyka agenda about arrest, AREST, and showing that there is opportunity where we spend time looking at the environmental issues in Liberia. Sanitation is one of those things. Don't you think that the university folks can contribute to that as well in terms of sanitation? Do we need to see trash, everything on the streets in Liberia and not picked up? What can the University of Liberia do, since it's going to be the premier university in Liberia and of West Africa, or even of Africa? What is it doing? It's important that we focus on that moving forward. And of course, the T in that arrest thing is about tourism. When you build the country, when you make it look good, people will come. Your tourism will not suffer. People will see, and also safety, making sure that the country is safe and secure. That brings in people. So it's important that we look at agenda for the university over the next 5 years. Possibly the university will offer other programs involving vocational and technical programs, vocational and technical degrees. So it could be associate degrees rather than bachelor's degree, helping others to excel, to do their best, say over a couple year period, 2 year, to get into a 4-year degree and move on. So thinking that through is important. And some of my networks in the United States and other places, Europe and other places, are willing to assist Liberia, the University of Liberia, to build those programs moving forward.
And that's the voice of Dr. John Wulu, candidate for the presidency at the University of Liberia, making his presence known tonight on Bridge Radio Africa and Punch Radio 1067 in Liberia. We have a caller on the line. Hello, caller.
Yes, hello. Good evening, Mr. Wulu.
Tell us your name and where you joined us from tonight.
Yes, my name is Abraham Farmer. ELW is Painesville, West Africa, Liberia. That's where I'm calling from, and also respectively North Dakota. But I have a question for Mr. Wulu, please.
Yes.
Sir, I understand. I see a desire for coming to Liberia to head the University of Liberia. But I have two concerns that I would really appreciate if you could address adequately and to the point. One is if you're actually selected, your vision for integrating technology into the universities curriculum and daily operations. How will you go about that? That's the first question. And my second question, if you are selected, okay, and as the president, what would you take to improve the university's accreditation worldwide? Thank you very much, sir.
Okay. Thank you, Abraham. And I really appreciate those two questions you have raised. We have a plan that we will follow very strictly in terms of technology integration is your first question. It's important that we look at models that work. There are several models that will work for the University of Liberia, given its situation, given what we understand at the time of the University of Liberia, where it is now, doing some baseline sort of, review and assuring folks that we may have these options to consider about integrating technology in the university programs. And that in itself requires structural thinking. Technology takes on different forms. Remember, I mentioned the word STEM. STEM is that second part. When you prioritize science and ensuring that people are engaged in scientific work, scientific research, or scientific studies like biology, chemistry, physics, and those sort of things, you are also thinking clearly about the technology, medical tech coming through. Are we efficient? Are we doing things in a very effective manner going forward for the university? Do we have a degree program? And as I mentioned, that could be vocational programs where you have you establish associate degrees that students will spend 2 years or perhaps a few months studying to acquire an associate degree, and making sure that there are different plans for technology. What sort of technology are we engaging? What really is a need in Liberia when it comes to identifying machines, mechanical issues, having the development of machines? Could be another part of technology that we can advance forward. So it is important that we look at programs that can be incorporated into the University of Liberia academic program, but also thinking very large and loud about what works. Are we only on the stream that folks get bachelor's degree? How about 2-year degree? Or how about a program in which when the student complete that 2-year degree, we push them into a 4-year at some point after they've had opportunities of apprenticeship. Very important. If we have a university working very at a higher level, we want folks that will be committed and actively engaged in bringing new and stellar ideas to the table that will advance technology and will be able to integrate technologies so well moving forward. On the second question, Ms. Abraham, how do we improve the university worldwide, given connections we've had? And remember, I talked about how important it is to associate with potential donors. I've been in the United States for over 40 years, but during those years, I've been visiting back and forth Liberia to keep my parents' schools and other friends, keep in touch with others in Liberia. So partnerships, very important. There are different institutions that I have associated with over these years. If I share with you a list of different universities and colleges I have taught at, you're going to wonder, how did I do it all in that span of time? But it's because I've always been engaged in multitasking. And it doesn't hurt to work hard with assuring that you have great results. So there will be opportunities where I have folks abroad in other countries who have been, some of them may have been my students 40 years ago. I can imagine that still to this date, some of my students from Liberia, from Merville College, or from the University of Liberia would send me an email from time to time just saying, "Hi, thank you, Prof. You did extremely well. I'm doing so well. My family is growing," and things like that. So there are connections that we have that we should not be too high on the pedestal to say that we cannot approach people, to let folks know what we're about to do in Liberia at the University of Liberia going forward. It is needed. It's long overdue.
Well, folks, again, if you just joining us, we are live on Punch Radio Liberia 1067 in Monrovia. I want to say a big thanks to our producer in Liberia, Sugar Conan, and we're also on Bridge Radio Africa via Facebook and YouTube as well. We have Raj Sandusky. He has a question for you that I know you mentioned the acronym arrest in this sense is there for job creation as well. But his question goes, How do you intend to deal with the complex issue of employment? For example, there are more support staff than instructional staff. There is also a bunch of misplacement of staff.
Right, Ras, that's a great question, and it's very serious. That's a very serious issue that any university will have to address, and sometimes it doesn't come with a simplistic answer. In dealing with these complex issue of employment, is that we hiring the right staff? What positions have been made available? Do we have standard of classification on positions that we have at different places? In the United States, where I work currently, I serve on the interagency committee that's involved looking at the standard of occupational classification and observing that positions have to be well in tune in the right way, that folks are aware of what duties they are required to do for giving compensation. So we, in terms of assuring that we understand the gamic on the ground, what's going on the ground in Liberia, such assessments will come through for our review, and has to be very swift in terms of assuring that the academic year flows correctly. On the question being raised about you have more of other staff than instructional staff, you have to look at the balance. What's the ratio that we have of student-teacher ratio at the University of Liberia? And making sure that we have the proper balance and assuring that students are getting the benefits that they need as in terms of quality, in terms of efficiency, and ensuring that they understand the material that they're studying going forward. So we have few instructional staff, and the ratio, student-teacher ratio, is very high. And so you have 40 students to one teacher. In that sense, we have to look back and start deciding what else can be done here. Also, with regards to other types of activities, administrative work, maybe clerical work, or work that's being done by others in administration, we have to look at that to see the balance. What really productivity of staff coming through when they're being hired? Or do we have redundancy in the hiring process of the same one staff that's sort of doing the same job as another staff and duplicating efforts? So we have to be very cautious about that and understand that every individual at the university must have a place and be able to add value to the University of Liberia going forward. The university cannot exist with substandard folks or folks that may not be able to contribute. And if so, let's help them. If they're not contributing as efficiently as possible, provide resources, training services that will help advance them or create opportunities for them to learn to do their work effectively and efficiently.
We have Mr. Bo Yonet on the board for you, Doc. He said there is an infrastructural problem at the main campus of the university. And what is your vision to improve and make the campus conducive for students?
Right. And thank you, Mr. Bo Yonet. Thank you very much for such a question. It is on any administrator or person who will be at the helm work on their mind. In that infrastructure development is one of those things that I mentioned earlier. In that residential facilities, very important. Residence halls for students, very important. As I mentioned earlier, there will be students who are living in an environment that's hampering their progress in school. How do we address that to help them? And there may be very smart students, very well-qualified students who may not have the means, but because they're in substandard environment, they are hampered by doing the kind of activities that they need to do. So in terms of assuring that we have better infrastructure development going at the university, it's important that we have a consensus of perspectives from wide range of individuals who are connected with the university. Now, keep in mind, decisions can be made, but it's always important to make sure you gather ideas from others before you make decisions. So there'll be others who are part and parcel of the University of Liberia who are also going to be contributing, will have ideas about how do we go about creating dormitories? How do we go about creating residence halls or residential facilities for maybe employees, or it could be for students of that sort of direction moving forward. Because when I was at the university, I remember back in the 70s, late 70s and early 80s, I was living very close to the University of Liberia, so I didn't have the need for living on campus. I live at the Capital Bypass, and I know Mr. GARLEY mentioned from Capital Bypass, Jalata, and all of that.
Oh, yeah.
Some of those we traveled, we walked away and got ourselves on campus to do the work that we needed to do within that 4-year span to get our degree and move on. But it may not be the case for others now, given that it's a post-war country, that there may be some hardships, some difficulties that folks are dealing with at the university or within the community. And we have to help. We have to do our best to help resolve such situation. So infrastructure development is paramount going forward. If we cannot invest or gather support from others to create and construct and erect good facilities for our students, we are selling ourselves short at the University of Liberia. We want to meet the demands of the government of Liberia and make sure that we are serving the people of Liberia going forward. So in any case, on the question of incentives, there will be a lot of ways that we can incentivize to ensure that we have the resources to build those, to move on with those projects and even have better classrooms and better buildings, state-of-the-art buildings, 21st century buildings.
And speaking of help, you have to be prepared. I'm pretty sure you were prepared in the 80s. And when you came to the U.S. at the Michigan State University, you hit the ground running. And you talk about the 21st century. What plans do you have to bring the university mode of learning into the 21st century? Do you plan to integrate learning with other universities so that the UL students can sit international exams to qualify them for international exposure?
Well, it's a very good question there. In terms of making us as competitive as possible, making the University of Liberia a competitive university, that's important. There are several universities that have propped up over the last 40 years in Liberia. And I know of those universities that exist. They are competing with the University of Liberia. And the question is the University of Liberia on the point at the point of saying that it is getting the better hand of such competition? We have to check. That's what is required to assure ourselves as to really what's being done at the university. Our students, are they well prepared? Are they being able to compete in the job sector to get the best job with the civil service and things like that in Liberia? And making sure, again, that our civil service has subscribed to standards of occupation, assuring that the degrees that students come up with, or even if they're pursuing a particular degree and they're vying for positions or competing for several positions in Liberia, that they are sure that that position will be given to them because of the standard of education that they have received going forward. So we want to make sure that I'm not going to divulge all of what I am thinking along this within the 1 hour period that we have to have a discussion. But to assure you that there has to be serious discussion going forward as to what would benefit the students from the University of Liberia as they go out there. Do we have an advocacy core? An advocacy core at the university that will help students as they leave the university to be able to, the graduates in particular, to land a job out there in Liberia. And what are the jobs? What jobs are available that they can take on? Let the economy speak for itself to show, well, we're seeing the, at the university, and this is very concerning in itself to me, to think that professors at the University of Liberia would make very small amount of money, and they still try to perform. And look at the salary scale. I mean, ranging from, say, $200 a month to about $2,500 or $2,000 a month at the university. I think something of that nature ought to be revisited and understand the situation, the economic situation on the ground, to make some very effective change at the University of Liberia and to attract very high level and qualified individuals to come in. So with that, it goes hand in hand. Qualified individuals teaching will allow qualified students in some way to graduate and be able to land better jobs going forward. And the University of Liberia will be able to compete with other universities that have propped up over the years. But the University of Liberia must be that premier university in Liberia and outside of Liberia, working hard for its students and faculty to excel.
Okay, we'll take one more question from the audience, and then we'll come back with closing statement, and of course, talk to our folks in Liberia. Mr. Menston Boy is saying, Dr. Wulu, what's the question? What have been your contribution to higher education in Liberia?
Okay, awesome question. I'm a product of higher education in Liberia, and contribution in terms of assuring that I made suggestions to folks about what this particular program we're on and vying for the position. There have been opportunities where we feed students from one of the schools that I support in Liberia, part of the John and Minnie Wulu school system. The Richie M. Nixon Institute that I mentioned earlier is a feeder to the University of Liberia. There have been students who have graduated from the high school of that school and given them scholarship to study at the University of Liberia.
I am a product of the Richie M. Nixon Institute.
Awesome. I'm glad to have this discussion with you. I didn't know that, Mr. GARLEY. I didn't know that. So that's a good. And I am also an alumni of the Richie M. Nixon Institute, the first one in the sense in the early, actually it was 1970, that I completed my 6th grade education at Richie M. Nixon Institute, 1970. And we had to take an exam in 1970, a national exam. So that tells you how far back that I have gone. In that, when I graduated from Richie M. Nixon Institute, I went on to other high school, junior high school. I went on to the Seventh-day Adventist junior high school right on Ken Johnson Road, and then went on to Merville College, my alma mater, and then taught at Merville College when I graduated from the University of Liberia. Even though, all of these times going through it, even while I was at the University of Liberia, I had an opportunity to teach, practice teach at St. Patrick's High School in Liberia. And I taught the 10th grade and the 7th grade class, self-contained class, with advice from one of the pioneer teacher who was there at the time, a very important individual who kind of mentored me in the process while I was teaching at St. Patrick's High School back in 1980. So that tells you that there's a lot of product in itself in terms of contribution to the University of Liberia or higher education in some way to the question that was raised. Contribution have been, in some cases, direct, in some cases, have been indirect.
Well, folks, if you're just joining the series, not easy tonight. Well, this is British Radio Africa, and of course, we are in collaboration with Punch Studio in Liberia, 106.7. And folks, I'm telling you, I want to say a big thanks to all of you for taking up time of your business schedule tonight. Those in Liberia, specifically Monrovia, Capital Bypass, Camp Johnson Road, you name it. Dr. Blue, when was the last time you were in Liberia?
The great question there, Mr. GARLEY. It was about almost 4 years ago, and the experience was not as good. I was in Liberia, and this was August of 2020. And why in Liberia? We had an unfortunate situation that occurred. My wife, who and I went to Liberia together, ate something that contaminated her and led to her passing in Liberia.
So sorry to hear that.
So it was a very tumultuous moment for me and my family. But irrespective of everything that has occurred in my life, I am standing strong to do more and to help Liberia. The healthcare system is one of those that needs care. The education system is down in Liberia and needs care. And of course, technology, infrastructure developments needed in Liberia, the roads. If we're even thinking about agricultural industry, getting agriculture activities in Liberia going forward with the university, you will think about what brings the product to the market. How is it going to get to the market in the right time? Coming from the different farms areas. Farm to market roads are very important in Liberia, and the University of Liberia must play a role in that happening in Liberia. So my thinking is that contributions to Liberia is going to be enormous with me being at the helm. There may be opportunities for other Liberians to get on with the program, we have to move things forward in Liberia. And I'm delighted just being on the radio station to have a conversation about my getting into the ring. It's not a political setting. It's not the elections. It's not involving me running for a position, but it's mainly to leave a comfort zone and get into an area where I can help make contribution to Liberia. It's what I'm concerned about going forward.
This is the bridge that connects Liberia, Bridge Radio Africa. So you didn't make any mistake by coming on Bridge Radio Africa to tell the world, tell the rest of the folks in Liberia about your intention. I also like to say a big thanks to Punch Studio in Liberia for giving us the opportunity for our voice to be heard locally in Liberia. Dr. Wulu, at this time, we a little over our time. So in closing, just give us your partner statement as we take leave of you tonight.
Yeah, I'm very delighted to be on your show this evening, Mr. GARLEY, and also that's the radio, the Bridge Radio Africa, and also with the Punch Radio in Liberia. I'm very delighted that they could be up at around this time. I know in Liberia it's probably around 11:22 right now, or a little bit later than that, or 12:22. So 5 hours ahead of us here. This has been a great opportunity. There are so many things that we need to do in branding the University of Liberia. We want to brand the University of Liberia is the oldest state-owned and operated institution of higher learning since 1862. And mainly the many strengths that come to bear when you think of the University of Liberia. It has to be internationally recognized. The enrollment that we have at the university, as I said, is like 4 times what it now is when I was there. Being that it's what I've been able to research is about 18,000 students who are part of the University of Liberia. We have to embrace going forward opportunities where we create global learning, online learning for Liberian students as well. People are walking with cell phone and all these different things they have access to. We have to make use of that going forward. There are different issues and opportunities that we will find ourselves bringing to bear in Liberia with new leadership at the University of Liberia. There'll be opportunities for increased funding at the university. Also, and keep in mind that we would be looking at some of the threats that we may encounter while we're moving things along. I talked earlier about security, data and information security, making sure that the university has secure systems going forward. Innovation and creativity in terms of challenges will be very important that we're going to move forward with. And considering good governance that will counter the lack of good governance. If we have had lack of good governance in the past, we have to counter that. So there may be opportunities for us as we move forward. There'll be new courses, campus modification, making sure that we have active list of donors, funders, people that will contribute to the university. You know, can you imagine how many others have graduated from the University of Liberia that's out there, or even went to the University of Liberia that we can bring in as contributors as we move forward? So my hope is to do the best that I can moving forward and letting people know the story as to how we can advance ourselves going forward. Agriculture is important. Health sciences, very important. Engineering is another important factor we have to look at, and making sure that people are moving from doing theoretical work and not having the resources to do a lot of theory, moving to the practical arena, allow folks to get involved more in vocational and technical activities as well, that they would be able to contribute to the fabric and health of the Liberian economy. So thank you very much, Mr. GARLEY. Thank you so very much, the Punch Radio, Mr. Soko, I'm sorry, Mr. Soko. Thank you very much for the opportunity to be on your program. And I hope that this is syndicated. I know we have other programs that may come up, maybe later on in the future, say August or so, we might do one more, if at all. So thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And we hope to talk to you soon again. Thank you so much.
Thank
all
you
right.
so very much.
Okay, that's the voice of Dr. John Wulu, candidate for the presidency at the University of Liberia. I have my own friend and brother, Soko Connect. My man, it's been a long time, my man. How's everything? How's Liberia?
Well, yeah, thank God we're in Liberia. Very long time, but it's great to have you back. The voice never changed. The giant. Great interview, by the way.
Thanks for the opportunity, man. You know, when you have former employees, you know, like you working for me when I served as the CEO at Love FM, and now
Yeah.
look where you are today, managing a radio station and giving back to me, giving me the opportunity for my program to be aired on your station. That is wonderful, man. I appreciate you.
Yeah.
Want to
Yeah,
see
like the conversation earlier when you said, "Mama, you know you owe me." I say, definitely, I owe you.
And I want to say thanks to the CEO for reaching out, telling us the ASHFORD, man, you got this thing come on our radio, and whatever you
Yeah.
do in life, just rest assured that you will be paid double. And just by my voice being heard again on the local radio stations in Liberia, it is a blessing. And I want to say a big thank you to all of you, the entire staff and management at Punch Radio Liberia 1067. When we come to Liberia, we'll find you guys. And thank you so much, my brother. Appreciate you.
It's always a pleasure. Thank you as well.
Is there anything you want to share with my audience before we take leave of you?
Well, basically, we will not just this is probably the first, but the show gonna continue. We're working on it, on having the collabo. So watch out. There are gonna be more great shows, more informative program right on the station, and also Bridge as well.
Thank you. Okay, that's the voice of Soko Kone, one of the managers there at Punch FM. Well, folks, that's all the time I have to be with you tonight. God willing, we will be back some other time. I'd like to say a big thanks to all of you. James Fitz, Dr. James Fitz, Francois Dimonique, Mr. Boyd, Jay Cassius Wiyato, Yama Thompson. Thank you so much for watching. Rason Sindusky, Oyone, Yumutro Krenga, Kalon Zaye, Koma Brown. Oh man. Okay. As we go home tonight, please allow me to borrow the wordings of the wise men. And he says, once you recognize your greatness, no one will ever pull your strengths. What people think about you, then the possibility for your dream, it's none of your business. And when you fall, make sure you land on your back, because when you can look up, you can get up. You have it within you to do so. You have comeback power. Tough times don't last, tough people do. The height of a man is never known until he rises, because there's no second chance to make that first impression. Basi yon plu, se kon we a epelia. Yo ule no muzu ane wanye madobo to dry adiwa adiwapo. He doesn't eat iron, but he's definitely stronger than a lion. As for the giant, Jurassic took by get 7 blue daranja, call me on Jiraji. That now you know me Garley. Have a good night.
You can't beat it, not even in a marathon. Here comes the punch that makes a difference. Punch FM, the newest sensation.
Listen to